All right, now that we've all aired our childhood school trauma, who has a 100-word summary of all of the family drama you guys got up to last week?
Victor nearly could kill Darkwood.
It is true. He can say that now. He can say, I almost killed Rowan Darkwood. One-on-one. Unarmed.
He's only alive because I made the conscious choice to save him.
I think he would have lived.
Oh yeah,
I don't think like Brick Road definitely 100% would have not let Darkwood go out like that. Although that would be kind of funny. Like that would be the equivalent of like the important character coming up, like I've come to save the day, and then like just like a piece of steel beam or something just flies through his head.
I mean, I had
And they're like-
storylines ready to go for Denny and Giannis that we're just abandoned now.
Well, you shouldn't have killed them.
I didn't kill them. What,
You did.
Are you blaming that on me?
We were never offered a chance to even try and save Denny.
You could have killed the
Well-
monsters that killed him. I forget how
Yeah.
Denny died. I don't remember.
He was-
Monsters, you say?
We woke
He
up
was
and he
trying
was
to kill
being
us.
stabbed.
You didn't. No,
Yeah,
like
he's your chaotic
Giannis-
evil brother.
cousin.
I would have liked to see Giannis' storyline.
Yeah.
But now
Zombie
you never
Giannis.
will because you guys killed him. And then you put him in a
No.
bag and then teleported him 100 feet in the air.
But I feel like there was one person who was responsible for that.
Yeah. Genie.
Yeah.
I didn't kill Giannis. The frogs killed
You
Giannis.
did dismember his body.
I didn't dismember his body. I crushed his body. There is a difference.
You put him in a state where we couldn't resurrect him.
We couldn't resurrect him anyway. We were like level 3.
We could have preserved him until we could resurrect him.
The point
I don't know
is,
about
I
that.
take no responsibility for NPC deaths in this campaign.
That's seems
Debatable, but
disingenuous.
let's move
but-
on.
Yeah.
So you all
No,
had a rap
our-
with Rudolph van Richten.
We
who came
did.
calling. And he wants
took
you all to
Rudolph-
visit the city of Ludendorff.
Yep.
In Lamordia. Two of you learned the Lamordian language before departing, did you not?
That is correct.
Okay.
Ekon did. Who else?
I don't think it's anyone else because
I think it was just Ekon because he had I think everybody else just decided to use the whatchamacallit, the spell.
Well, he was the only one who had a slot ready to go.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm not enough of a brainiac to have extra languages lying around.
And I thought, honestly, I remember Destil not even doing that. I thought he was just going to cast tongues. But that's
No,
fine.
I had a language slot I kept around.
So the language you learned is Lamordian. The region that Ludendorff sits in is in the realm of Lamordia. And Van Richten wants you to go there because he's got contacts in the university there, who he thinks might be able to help Jeannie with her plight. To get there, you're sailing out from Lake Rhodoff, which to all appearances looks like a large inland lake. The kind of which, the same sort of inland lake that the city of Brennanine sat upon. The difference is it's a saltwater system, and after you set sail on this tiny, cramped little boat with Van Richten and his Vistani navigator, traveling west into the mists that are ever pervasive on the surface of the lake, it becomes much more akin to an ocean voyage. One of you had taken a parcel, almost certainly a book, from Zaquiel in Lake Rhodoff to deliver as payment for allowing you to depart from his shores. Which of you has that book?
Jeannie has it because she went and got it.
Yeah, she's also the only one he likes.
That's debatable.
I don't think he likes any of us.
Oh, I guess, okay, there could be that possibility.
Are you doing anything with the book, or are you just going to leave it wrapped and deliver it? I mean, you think it's a tome. It has the right shape and the right feel beyond the parcel, the right heft.
Yeah. I mean, not going to do anything right now with it.
Okay.
Just put it in the bag of holding.
In order to safely navigate the mists, Van Richten has employed a Vistani navigator who is 3 sheets to the wind when you arrive, and none of you ever see the man even remotely sober.
As long as he doesn't get us lost.
The voyage is cramped and uncomfortable and largely beset by rain. But other than that, unremarkable. The uncertainty of whether you're traveling the correct direction or where you're going or what you're doing out there on the water never leaves, because the whole voyage is enwrapped in mist. You can never see further than maybe 20 or 30 feet away from the ship. And sometimes the sun, such as it is that you can see it, will rise and set on the same part of the sky, indicating that you're not even traveling in the same direction as you were in the evening as you were in the morning. Nonetheless, after 5 days of journey, the ports of Ludendorff are spotted to your south. I have a map of Ludendorff. As soon as Immiger has been bugging me like, hey man, you need to uninstall your ad blocker. And I keep telling it I will. Like, I keep telling it I'm going to get around to it. Is it wrong, like morally wrong, to lie to a robot?
No.
Yes.
Ooh.
No.
Maybe to a robot, but to a website, you are obligated to lie about ad blockers.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm obligated, I wouldn't want to shrug my obligations.
Your duty.
You're not lying to the website. You're lying to the parent company that owns immigrant.com. So, like, in that
Is
case,
it morally wrong to lie to them?
no,
Oh, it's
it's
morally
morally correct to take advantage of a large corporation. That's not true in a lot of
21st
ways.
century social optics are complicated
Yeah,
Just
because
remember,
robots.
corporations are people too. The Supreme Court has established this.
So, departing from Late Rodolph, but you arrive on the Sea of Secrets, having passed through the mists. And despite his reckless navigation, and despite his insistence on being drunk the entire trip, you arrive more or less safely.
Bone Oil River. That's ominous.
Farming.
You kind of have 3 options, and this will be a decision you guys can make as you come into your final approach on the Sea of Secrets. The 3 places that your ship could put in. I mean, you could have the ship come in a mile up the coast if you want, and not approach the city proper at all. I guess that's an option. But the 3 options if you pull into the city proper are the shipyard, where ships are built and maintained, but not a lot of trade goes through. The whale yard. There's a large whaling industry in Ludendorff. Whale fat being used as the city's primary source of fuel. And the Bellowfright Market District, which is where a lot of the trading guilds and things operate. So a merchant ship coming to offload and onload more goods, that's where they would go.
does the Vistani have a preference?
It's not his call. He got you
Okay.
through the mist. That was his job.
I don't know. The first two seem like industrial areas.
They are, and there could be advantages to arriving into an industrial area. For example, there would be a lot more foreigners, travelers, and traders in the market district. No, they're marked on the map here. I'm not sure if I pointed out, but you can see the numbers correspond to the names of the districts here, and then more specific locations on the bottom half.
Letter marks.
Letter marks, yeah, are specific locations, whereas number marks are like districts.
Yeah.
So, like, arriving through the market, Van Richten believes it'll be much more likely that somebody will take note of your arrival, whereas arriving through one of the other two districts could be done more surreptitiously, if that's your intent.
Is Van Richten with us, or is this just information he's given us?
No, he met you at the city, and he set sail along with you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He had to arrange for that navigator.
So I guess the question is, do we want to? How big of a production do we want to make arriving?
I think,
A little.
yeah, we want it to be low profile as possible, I think.
Okay.
Shipyard or the whale yard?
Well, Jeannie wants to go to the shipyard for reasons.
Jeannie.
Yeah.
Approaching the city. Out on the sea, it's been rainy and it's heavy, heavy fog the whole time. But the skies are never clear. But you can see where at some point, perhaps, they might be blue during the day. Approaching the city, the rest of you almost see it as just a pervasive storm cloud, black and odious, hanging above the city. Jeannie, you immediately, seeing the city for the first time, recognize just the layer of smog belched forth from the smokestacks of Ludendorff. This is a very industrialized city. Machinery powers this place. And the amount of oil and wood burned daily to keep the forges churning, keep the lights lit. It's almost poetic that the city has to put that much energy and that much waste into the air to keep the lamps lit to see by because there's so much smog that hangs in the air.
He lets out like a wistful, nostalgic sigh, I guess.
I'm going to ask a question about Jeannie. And
Sure.
this is a very important question. Because
Alright.
your answer to this question is going to depend on whether or not Jeannie has to make a horror check on this approach.
Okay.
What is Jeannie's outlook on industrialization in general?
It makes lives better. She's pro-industrialization.
Okay.
Like, I guess, like, that's her job, industrialization.
Okay.
So she's not necessarily like, let's cut down all the forests and pave over them, but she also is, let's build the water wheels and the smokestacks and all this, and she's pro that.
Would Jeannie build a factory with a smokestack in the middle of Brennanine? Even though the smoke coming out of the stacks makes the lives of the people worse in some ways. Is the offset, in her eyes, good enough?
It depends on the in the right situations, yes.
Okay.
It depends on like what the purpose of there's a purpose for everything, and there are pros and cons to everything.
Jeannie,
So, yeah.
make me a horror check.
Uh, 12.
12. Okay. Because Jeannie, yeah, is very pro-industrialization. She wanted to preserve that steam engine from the boat. She loves building machines and clockwork mechanisms. But there's waste associated with that. These devices create smoke. They pollute water. They harm animals. They use up natural resources that take a long time to replace. We've all seen Captain Planet. We know how it works. Here's what horrifies Jeannie on the approach.
Ugh.
This city is consuming, but all it's producing is pollution and smoke. And you couldn't drink or use the water of the ocean. You can't imagine it's teeming with wildlife. This is the end goal of unchecked industrialization by people who are doing it to create the misery itself. That application of your profession is something I'm going to assume Jeannie has never considered before.
No. I guess there is like a market to make devices to cause misery, but like just not generally what Jeannie has thought about. No, she likes building ships and she likes, things like that.
So are you approaching into the shipyard or the whale yard?
Jeannie's vote is the shipyard.
Okay.
I was waiting for everybody to pipe up about that.
Victor,
That's fine with me.
Victor sports a
That's
ship.
fine with me.
Ships are being constructed out in the shipyard, and in one part of the shipyard they're being deconstructed or repaired or maintained. And Jeannie, again, you can see more pointedly than your companions, the city just has an industry for building and maintaining and repairing and dismantling ships. And all of these things create pollution and waste, and you don't see the purpose of it. What are these ships doing? Who owns them? Who's sailing them? There are whaling ships coming in and out, but they're building ships with big smokestacks, and you can't be certain, but it almost looks like they're building them
Just to deconstruct them?
just to deconstruct them again. And both of those processes are just producing more waste.
Cousin Evelyn.
Yes?
Jeannie would point this out.
I don't understand.
What's that?
Why would they
have?
do this?
I take it that Cousin Evelyn, that since you're not insisting on the pomp and circumstance of being a visiting dignitary, prefer we not address you as a duchess here.
I don't think it would help.
It may and then it may not, but we'll see. I guess we'll have to see, won't we?
I mean, Evie's looking to keep a low profile. She's not like, I'm the Duchess of some foreign land who the Mordians may not be friendly with. That just doesn't seem profitable.
So you guys
Okay,
going
then.
into the city kind of low-key?
Yeah.
Like you're not wearing your bright Veritas colors. You're not going to introduce yourself as...
Well, low-key for us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Ekon throws a cloak, nondescript cloak over his armor.
Okay.
If the situation comes up where I had to say I'm a Duchess, we'll play that as it comes, but I don't think the people here are going to care.
Are there any sleeping bums laying around or piles of dirty clothes or rags?
Not in the shipyard itself, but as you guys put into port and as you take your first steps out onto the docks, which you're bustling with all kinds of activity, the smell of the place does hit you. Just the smell of smoke and crap and just a million people tightly packed together.
Victor is going to keep an eye out for a change of clothes for himself and the rest of the party.
Oh, that could have been arranged before you even got
I have a
there.
disguise. I have disguise kit proficiency. I can make us all look less noble. I
Oh, no,
think.
Victor was going to take clothes from this area so we really blend in.
I mean, Jeannie is just wearing her normal clothes, but Jeannie scrunches her nose up and says, "This is like a Bizarro World version of like whatever the city where the House of Gear is from."
Comparatively, Brennanine was a very clean city.
Yeah.
Which is saying something because you guys remember arriving there, the city being much more cramped and dirty and uncomfortable than the rural area you came from. But that was the only big city that you had probably been to. This is what happens when there's no infrastructure in a city to keep things clear or clean or safe. Even the walls around what Van Richten refers to as the city proper are in a terrible state of disrepair. These walls could not be used to defend the city from anything. Parts of them are crumbled away. Makeshift roads have kind of boomed up in some places where parts of the walls have fallen away. Despite that, the main roads that go through the actual city gates are still guarded. They still have men that still are interrogating travelers going into and out of the city.
How big of a city is this?
I don't know if there's not a scale thing on here in the book. Oh, there is a scale thing up here. Up here under the shield. So looks like about 3 kilometers. 3 square kilometers, maybe, give or take. Just an eyeball.
Let's try to get a sense for like how many people would be here.
But it seems like the way he's describing it is way more than is sensible.
Right, like easily more people live in this space than in Brennanine, which was of a similar geographical size. Similar makeup, too, because that was also a lakeside city, although it was on an island, and Ludendorff is not.
Okay, so there's a lot of people here.
Yes,
Yeah.
very cramped. When you get out into the streets, like you're constantly bumping shoulders with people.
Okay, so this is the first time we've actually seen like an actual city since we've gotten to the Land of the Mists. Everything else has been ruined.
Yeah, this city in particular is more like the land of smog.
I guess this place is agitating Jeannie. Like, before we leave the docks, she's gonna like walk up to one of the crewmen building that boat and ask them like what the purpose of the boat is.
In Lamordian?
Oh, right, she doesn't know Lamordian. Crap. So she can't get this answer, so she's even more agitated.
Van Richten is going to head towards the university in the center of town. He advises the rest of you to stay away from the university for now until he's managed to make things ready with his contacts. He doesn't outright state it, but you get the sense that he believes that there's a lot of danger associated with this university. In the meantime, he recommends that you secure lodgings at a place called the Archman's Foot, which is in the Brightmoor Gardens district. That's way up here north, just outside the wall.
Is that a place where you can... Do you recommend we just skirt the outer wall and go around, or go straight through?
The Archman's Foot is a boarding house that he often uses when he has business here in Ludendorff, and he always sleeps easier in the city if he's outside of the wall. The air is a little less thick, the places are a little less cramped.
We just set up a tent outside the city.
You could,
That's
but
gonna
that would
attract
draw a lot of attention.
Would.
I think we should...
Does he have an idea for how long he plans for us to be here?
If you agree to secure lodgings there, he says he'll send word there within the next day or two.
By the way, like, Jeannie takes Van Richten aside. Can I have my toe back?
He opens his mouth dejectedly, and it's just underneath his tongue.
That's
That's
Horrible.
no, the toe was consumed by whatever experiments he did to it.
okay.
The toe is gone.
I was under the impression he still had it in a jar.
That's where it was last time you saw it, but no, he doesn't have it with him now.
Okay, all right. Well, if he's consumed it, that's fine.
I'm so sad he wasn't eating it.
Like, he didn't eat it. That's not what I meant by whatever experimentation he did to try to determine what's going on with your body.
He just did a quick pickle and tossed it right in his mouth. Put some vinegar and maybe some like peppercorns. And okay, I'll stop now.
Okay, let's
Anytime, Treble. Anytime.
Do you guys want to walk straight through? I
I
think
think he wants to go on the outside.
or
He
yeah,
told
we
us to avoid the university, and when we have to walk past the university, we go through the city.
I think it's worth seeing what people outside the city live like before we go inside.
Well, there's no outside the city. This is all the
Well,
city.
outside the walls.
Like, entire huge areas have sprawled up. And there are places along your journey that you can't even tell if you're inside the walls or outside. The walls are in such a terrible state of disrepair.
So on
So
that
the
note,
first question is, are you guys going to take his advice and secure lodging at this particular place, or would you like to do something else?
I mean, seems.
I'm inclined to just take his word. He's
I
been
don't
here
think-
before.
I don't think we have a reason
Yeah.
not to.
Okay.
Does gold or other forms of coin spend the same here?
What do you attempt to buy?
Oh, I was gonna ask Van Richten before we parted ways.
It does.
Okay.
You might end up getting fleeced because people will recognize you're foreigners, or you might get flack from a merchant because a Darkanese coin weighs less than a Lamordian coin or something, but gold is gold pretty much everywhere.
Very well then. I was just looking to pick up something of the local fashion.
Okay.
So if we're going to go on the outskirts, Victor is going to keep an eye on the walls to see exactly how many of these broken down sections are guarded.
The gates, which you can see on the map here, there are still gatehouses at them. They're still guarded. You see lines of people going in and out. You don't understand why, because you could get to the streets inside the wall from any of the sections that are traversable, of which there are several on each stretch. They're just it seems to you like they're being guarded for the sake of being guarded. Someone is maybe doing it as a power play.
Yeah. Trying to keep up appearances, maybe?
Might be some factionalism going on in this city. Maybe certain people own certain parts and they'd like to keep other people out.
Maybe
I'm assuming you're just doing it so you don't get arrested.
Or maybe everyone's just
Same reason
doing
you
it
don't
because
jump over another wall.
I think. Well, Ekon knows the language. I guess I
Yeah.
should take the time to cast. We could do it when we stop.
Everyone
the
should
board.
cast comprehend languages before we get off the boat.
Yeah, I can. I'm gonna do it as a ritual because I can do that.
Well, la-di-da.
So if you want to buy local clothing, the PHB has prices for common clothes, fine clothes, that kind of thing. Take that price and add 10%.
Okie dokie.
Those of you who look into buying more upscale clothes, things that might be considered fashionable, there's definitely a sense that fashion exists here, but it also strikes you as being very dated. Even though you don't know much about the history of this place, like everything just is old and worn down. Even the clothing. The Archman's Foot is up here in Brightmoor Gardens, which is around the north edge of the town, where the river, just on the other side of the river. The thing about Brightmoor Gardens is there's 3 words that make up the name, and it is none of those things. It is not bright, it is not a garden, and it is definitely not more. But it seems to be a low-key residential district, a lot of tenement housing kind of things, a lot of rundown shacks, and it's in a place in the city where the population is thinner on this side of the river than the other side, for whatever reason. The unfortunate man who runs the Archman's Foot, who I left to the auspices of Fantasy Name Generator, is named Campbell Pemble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
I approve.
When you secure lodging here, do you drop Van Richten's name or leaving him out of it?
I think we would just leave him out. Like, we're here to procure lodgings for our party +1.
Well, no, it's our party. Our party happens to be, what, 7?
Yeah, but I know,
Yeah,
but like
we
the
are here.
people. Yeah, but Van Granting's not with us. That's why I said the people here +1.
Okay. But are you telling the man that Van Richten is a member of your parties?
Yeah. Why wouldn't we?
He says he knows this place.
So, man speaking in Lamordian, and he points out that it's a larger group than the doctor typically travels with, but that arrangements could be made. How many rooms do you need?
Let me see. I think
3?
Yeah, 3,000, right? One for the girls, one for the guys, and one for Van Richten.
So 4 guys have to sleep in one room?
Well, yeah.
And one of them is Victor.
Victor Snore.
Well, 3 guys and a wolf. If you guys need to move your lettuce and your goat to the other side of the river, I'm not helping. What are the lodging costs? Those are in the PHB too, are they not? Let's take that and add 10% as well. You're securing 3 rooms of lodging.
what quality?
Probably not terrific. Like, what's the second
It's-
lowest?
2 silver pieces a day. So we could give them. So there'd be 2 silver pieces per person. Why don't we go ahead and prepay for 5 days,
Okay.
just to make it a round number? And then if 7, there's 7 of us.
You're men and women of Darkon.
15.4. Okay, so it's 15.5 gold.
And he points out, you're men and women of Darkon.
Is he speaking in dark? Oh, I guess we understand him.
He's
but-
speaking in Lamordian. But he's,
Yeah, so I guess Ekon's the one doing the conversation, and yeah, yes.
and he's neither condoning nor condemning. He's just making the observation that he's being paid in Darkany's coin. Campbell Pemble sounds like the name you would give to a clown, but the man is actually very transactional. You get the sense that this is a guy who does not, he asks as few questions as possible.
Works for me.
One of the reasons why Van Richten likes him. The rooms themselves are very cramped. There's just not a lot to them. Each one has, like, the guys, you go up to your room, there's only 1 bed in each chamber. There's room enough to throw bedrolls upon the floor. Your chamber pot's not even empty when you get up there.
Ew.
It's not squalor, but a hair or 2 above. The only worst night is sleeping in the stables. But the bed seems solid enough. You go over, there don't seem to be any eye holes punched into the walls. You do have a window looking out to the north and east in each of your 3 rooms, which means looking away from the smog of the city. And he makes you aware of where you can send in the area to have foodstuffs or supplies or things you need to procure. Basically anything you want to buy out of the PHB can be arranged in and around the vicinity of the Archman's Foot. You have your headquarters in Ludendorff now secured.
Just a reminder before I forget again, Ekon has winged boots, Evie has a headbed of intellect, and Edmont, you have that cloak of protection. I think you all, I told you beforehand, you all should have equipped that. Yeah. I just didn't want Brickrow to be confused when Ekon starts flying.
I would just assume it was something Alex built months and months ago.
Evie can actually cast spells now.
That's disturbing.
Well, I mean, she actually has like a respectable DC now.
But yeah.
All right. So it is now afternoon, as you spent most of the morning procuring your supplies, securing your lodging, sending your drunken Vistani back off into the Sea of Secrets. And Van Richten says he will send word up to the Archman's Foot within the next day or 2. So let's start getting afternoon actions. We can assume that you have general knowledge of anything on this list. Any of these named locations you'd like to visit or peruse, or you can just hunker down in your flop house for a couple days. It's up to you.
We're supposed to avoid 2 and 3, right?
Van Richten's advice was, you got the sense that he believes that the university can be very dangerous. Van Richten's also not the type of man to tell anybody what to do. When he gives advice, it's always of the sense of he sees you as an intelligent actor with your own agency, and if you have your own reasons for visiting the university, who is he to gainsay you?
Alright, so first of all, does anyone need to do anything where they're going to need someone that can actually speak the language?
You want to go to the university?
Not yet.
Be perfectly
Because if
honest,
not, I'm going to wander off on my own, but...
To be perfectly honest, I could do for a good tap house.
Evie requests that Victor requires a chaperone.
Not it!
Not it.
You can try.
Well, actually, he can't talk to anyone, so he might be okay.
He can talk to people.
No, you're right. Well, that's going to freak people out as he uses telepathy.
Like, Victor could talk to anybody at any at extreme distance.
What kind of tap house is Edmont looking for?
Probably something middling, not like super upscale or anything, but probably something more middling.
Okay.
Victor will actually go with Edmont to the tap house for a little bit.
Okay. So the 2 tap houses that are actually on this list.
Yeah.
The first is letter E, the Laughing Golem. That is here on the map. The Laughing Golem is in a particularly badly polluted place in the city, in the Craftsman's District, where there's just a lot of shops and open forges and a lot of... but the rumor of the Laughing Golem is that the name is literal, and one of the set pieces of the bar is that there is an actual laughing mechanical golem who can tell jokes and who knows some songs, and one of the selling points of the district. The other one is labeled G here, the Syndicate House on the other side of the river. This is a place where the city is ostensibly run by a collection of loosely formed guilds and businesses, many of which are associated with the university. And one of those guilds is the Syndicate. And you get a lot of stories about what they might have actually done in the past. Like, were they a thieves guild? Was it a criminal organization? But they run a fairly upscale tavern in here where business is done. This is the kind of place, like a Sopranos kind of joint.
Let's go there.
Okay.
So what Victor basically wants to do is go gather information in various parts around the city. So starting with the tap house is a good spot.
That'd be a good place to start, because this place has a reputation for this is where business occurs.
Start hearing stories, that kind of thing.
All right. What about Evie?
I'm not sure. I can't talk to anyone.
No? You can understand what's being said, though.
I can. I'm a little interested in seeing what this arms factory is.
That's a factory where they make arms.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning
are
weapons,
actual.
not arms. Like,
Yeah.
not appendages.
Like, would they have, like, guns there?
Your understanding is, yes, powder weapons.
Why is Genie not already there?
In fact, you would have had to walk past this factory and several other factories on your journey from the shipyard.
Jeannie's not that kind of artificer. She's more clockwork, and
Where does Genie want to go?
Jeannie wants to go to. I guess she heard about there being a clockwork store in the Craftsman District.
That
and
sounds
that's where
fun. Evie will go with you to the Clockworks place.
We can go. If we got time,
You
we
mean
can.
Finkel's Clockworks?
Yeah. Like, one of her reputations is she's a clockwork engineer.
Okay. And where would Edmont like to visit this afternoon?
I'm going with Victor to the.
No, I'm sorry, not Edmont. Ekon.
Ekon is interested in going to the old chapel.
The old cathedral.
Cathedral, yeah.
Let's split the party.
Well, you're intended to split the party in a city scene like this.
Also, I do want to say that, like, you did actually have to clarify that they didn't manufacture actual arms because...
You're right.
Because hashtag Ravenloft.
I shouldn't have had to, but in this specific city, in this specific setting, you're right. That's very reasonable to clarify.
Hashtag just Ravenloft things.
It's also not something we've done a lot in this campaign, but I do like to do like city sessions sometimes where people split up and go do their things. And then when we do that, we split it up by time of day. Like, this is how you're spending your afternoon. Then after this, we'll call for a round of evening actions. Ekon.
Mm-hmm.
Make a religion check, please.
Got it.
Also trained in history?
I could be if I knew that was important ahead of time, but I'm not right now.
If you decide to be trained in history, you can make this religion check at advantage.
Let's go for it. I got a lot of spell slots.
Okay.
You have more spell slots than is reasonable.
More spell slots than common sense.
That didn't help very much, did it?
Well, it made it not a 1. So that's a religion of 9.
9. Okay.
Is it? Because that's +4.
Yeah, I got +5 religion. It's intelligence based.
Right
I
up,
have
but
no
you rolled a d4 as well.
That wasn't counted. That was just I pulled the wrong dial out of the bag.
Oh, okay.
Okay, bear with me just a second.
No trouble.
The old cathedral is a ruin, and a very old ruin. It definitely predates the industrial look and feel of the rest of the city. The story that you learn conversing with some of the townspeople around the area is that the cathedral was one of the first buildings on the site, that it was brought down in some ancient war, even before the walls were built and the university was founded. To the point now where nobody even knows what god or gods were revered here. Nowadays, the woman in charge is named Annie Keelberth. Annie is a mean old cuss, but she uses the site because there are walls and some roofs still remaining. It's about the only assets that the cathedral has, but Annie uses them for charity. It's a place where it's like one part soup kitchen, one part convalescent house, one part flop house for people who need to drink, who need to sleep it off. And it strikes you as strange that there's not even a residual memory of what gods might have been worshipped here at what point in the long, long past. And that's the scene when Ekon arrives.
So it's run as a flop house.
The word
Effectively.
that Annie likes is a charity.
Mm-hmm.
It's charitable good works. And there is a need for that sort of thing, but this is not how you would run a charity if you were in charge of it.
Okay.
But yeah, in practice, it looks like it's often used as a flop house.
I mean, I'll ask, I guess, if I'll try and get, you know what I'll do? I'll try and like get the attention of someone who, like, you know, is living here, someone maybe not that well off, and see if I can't pry a little bit of information out of them.
Nobody lives here full time.
Okay.
But there are definitely regulars that Annie has to kick out pretty often. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're trying to learn something specific?
Yeah, I'm curious if there's like any like old stacks of books or anything like that as part of this building. like in a basement or library, just kind of like any sort of repositories of old lore that might point towards that sort of thing.
Well, the men that you speak to, the quote-unquote regulars, we'll call them, well, Annie doesn't allow them down into the basement. There's a basement level, but it's not used very often. Annie doesn't... they think that Annie's quarters herself are down there.
Okay.
However, make me an investigation check.
You got it.
You can either use charisma or intelligence.
So that's an untrained investigation of 19.
Okay. A couple of the regulars, and there's some disagreement between them, but a couple of them have stories about how if they get sick, they're sure to not come around the old cathedral. Because sometimes Annie takes sick people downstairs into the basement for treatment, and then those people are not seen again.
And does Annie own the place, or is she just the maintainer? Does anyone know or have an opinion on that?
Maintainer would be a very strong word to use in this situation, but nobody owns it, but she's the one making use of it. And doesn't seem to be anybody who is interested in gainsaying her. She has a team of servants and people doing the actual day-to-day laboring, assisting people, cooking, cleaning, laundering, that sort of thing. And you got a 9 on the religion check?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, a couple of the old junkies have rumors about how, if you get sick, like the old cathedral's a great place to go if you just need to fill your belly or you need a dry place to sleep for a couple of nights. But if you're sick, don't come here.
Okay. Does it sound like there are people is there someone do people go out and collect the sick to bring them here, or is it more just if you do end up here, bad juju?
You hear some embellishments to that effect, but you're not sure how much you believe them. It's possible.
Okay.
Because that sort of thing would attract a lot of attention.
Yeah.
To send people out. It would become a known quantity out in the city. And some of the men telling you these stories are still happy to eat her gruel and sleep beneath her walls, so...
Sure.
Anything else you want to take care of at the old cathedral?
No, that's enough information for me for right now.
Okay. Is Ekon disappointed or disturbed at all that it's not actually a site of worship or a site of religion?
Not surprised, but disappointed is accurate, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's more disappointing that there's no evidence of old worship here, rather than he wasn't expecting to find active worship, but he was thinking he might find something about the religious history of the place visiting there.
Yeah, the history of the place seems to just have been completely stripped away from it. Jeannie and Evie going to Finkel's Clockworks.
Just a reference. I did fail that horror check, correct?
No, you rolled a 12.
Oh, okay.
Horror check is always, it's like a death save. 11 or better is good enough.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
don't roll a 1.
That doesn't mean you're not horrified by the situation. It means that there's
Just
no
negative.
I don't track a failure for it.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. Horror checks, I should be calling them horror saves because I treat them like saving throws. And you can so rolling 11 or better is good. Hey, bear with me just one moment. I have a little note section for each of these locations that I have to reference.
It's on the way, Jeannie is just talking to Evie and explaining how she doesn't like the city. And this is the worst possible outcome for like something about the city just offends Jeannie on like a spiritual level.
What about Evie? Is Evie also offended by the city?
Evie doesn't like it, but she's not going to vocalize that. She doesn't want to. She doesn't know who's listening.
Okay.
Jeannie's essentially like pacing around like an angry cat.
This side of the river, there are fewer actual like factories and heavy industry. The shipyards and things are all on the other side. Although the whale yards are down to your south. And like you can smell them in the streets walking through the craftsman's district. The place where you are now, there are lots and lots of smaller individual shops. And it's almost like it's mandated by the city because every single shop you can see where it's got its open garbage chute or its open sewer pit or its belching smokestack on the roof. Just statistically, it's almost like a point of pride who can put the most garbage and refuse out into the city. It's almost part of their industry. The shops themselves range from completely purposeless, people just making mechanical trinkets that don't do anything useful, but they do move on their own power a little bit, to artistic, to actually useful. There are shops that sell things like self-stirring pots, where you put your soup in the pot and you turn the crank, and then the mechanical hand will stir for you. 10 stirs to a pull or some such. Novelties and things. Finkel's Clockworks is one of these shops. In fact, you've all seen the YouTube video of you build that little box and you flip a switch, and all it does is when you flip the switch, the box open and a little finger switches it back off. That's the kind of nonsense that Finkel's Clockworks specializes in. And the reason his shop stands out is because it's the cleanest place on the block, for sure. Finkel is a stunted halfling. He's a tiny, tiny man. Maybe a hair under 3 feet tall. You hear that he is a boisterous and very jovial sort of man, but he's not very gentlemanly. He's crass and he's crude, but in a way that people find delightful. The actual running of his shop, a lot of the building and selling and business aspects are maintained by his 2 daughters, both of which stand over 6 feet tall. Their names are Glora and Finkel Jr.
Wait, what? His daughter's name Finkel Jr.?
His daughter's name is Finkel Jr. Neither of his daughters look anything like him at all. Every aspect of them, physically, hair color, eye color, muscle mass, size, everything is different. The shop is alive with noises of little mechanical things, chimes going off, gears cranking. And it looks like Glora's job throughout the day is to just continuously go around the shop winding cranks and turning keys and things to make sure that the bustle of the place stays alive.
Guess the first thing Jeannie's going to do is she's just going to walk around and start inspecting the wares.
What about Evie?
Like craftsmanship and things.
I guess she's probably going to look around and see if there's like anything that would make like a good gift for Tenny. Just like a simple little wind-up toy thing that a kid would find interesting. I mean, I know she's probably getting a little old for toys, but things like this I think are
almost the exact opposite of the kind of place where you'd want to shop for Tenny.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, she's very into nature and animals, and buying her a little clockwork widget. Because, yeah, she's a little too old to just be... we just bought our niece a little dinosaur thing that is her favorite toy in the universe because it lights up and makes noise.
Yeah.
That's the benefit of not having your own children, is you can buy the noisy toys for someone else's child.
Oh yeah.
It's really fun. And you get, I'm sure, Destil, you get the stink eye when the kid opens the present. Like,
Yep.
oh, I gotta listen to this. As far as the craftsmanship in the shop, as Jeannie's going around, very wide variety of materials and attention to detail. Like some things were like little intricate puzzle boxes and things that must have taken 100 hours, and others are just things slapped together with a few springs and pieces of detritus. It runs the gamut. There seems to be no rhyme or reason to the pricing on these things either.
Or is the halfling is he said Fritz?
Finkel.
Finkel.
And he welcomes you into the shop with his tiny little voice. He admonishes you for interrupting his lunch, but he's happy to show you whatever you need to see.
Well, like I said, Jeannie starts asking him questions about, like what kind of stuff he has. Is it all just trinkets?
Yeah.
Asking her, do you have anything a little more complicated?
I mean, some of the stuff looks pretty complicated. I mean, building a self-stirring pot is not an easy task.
Right. I'll ask him where he got his training. Like, who taught you how to do this?
Bear with me one moment. I have the actual answer to that question.
Have you ever heard of the man who invented the upper-majigger?
He slams his hand on the table. Never met a finer gentleman in my life.
You called it the Upamajigger.
Finkel has the honor of being a graduate of the Gearwork Approximatron program at the university. There's an entire wing of the university dedicated to building clockwork and mechanical structures like this.
He perks up at this, and she'll tell him that she graduated at a. She'll explain where she graduated, and then she doesn't say like that it's outside the mist, that it's just far away.
Mm-hmm.
And she's excited to hear that like the university has such a program. Although I guess she deflates a little bit when she like remembers that like everything in this city is just the worst.
I don't know.
Like,
Finkel seems all right.
How do you keep this place so clean compared to like everything else? This is quite literally the dirtiest place I've ever been, and I've been in literal holes full of dirt.
And you could, at the mention of it, and Finkel's face grimaces up. And he agrees with you that he finds the sorry state of the city to be one of the few things about Ludendorff that he's not completely in love with. Otherwise, he is big fan of the university, big fan of the city and its workings. He's also conversing with you in Darkanese, by the way, after you get that out of the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot that we don't speak the language. Thank you.
No, I'm assuming you like started out a little bit to find common footing. I'll make note if somebody doesn't speak Darkanese. Otherwise, they're happy to converse with you. Otherwise, we couldn't roleplay any of these scenes.
I'll ask him if he has any recommendation. Like, does he know any notable people in this university? Maybe I could speak to just swap ideas.
He recommends that you just pay a call on the university commons.
University commons.
Yeah, just up in the university proper.
I mean, we're not going there yet. That's not what I'm doing, but like,
he's advising that's exactly what you want to do. If you're just looking for a meeting of the minds and swapping ideas, you'll find no finer place.
But you don't have like he doesn't have like a recommendation on like the most knowledgeable professor in the program he was in?
He drops a couple professor names.
Okay, all right, cool.
If need be.
Jeannie makes note of like the names and whatever, and she thanks him, and she will pick a nearby object, a trinket, I guess,